When I first came to the idea of making skull portraits as a metaphor to show who people really are inside, as opposed to how they appear on the surface. And there's often quite a big disparity between who people see you as being and who you really are inside. I mean, I think my skull portraits seem to echo how I feel about life, in the sense that when I meet people, I get a really strong impression of who they are inside as a person, how they make me feel.
So there is in skull portraits, as I've finished, a strong subjective element. You put something of yourself into portraits as well.
Yes, I do add various arrangements in proximity to other individuals, people holding hands. Also, people hold up objects and wear certain pieces of jewelry or certain pieces of clothing, and that complements the more objective dimension of the forensic, more medical aspect of it, so that in the end you have an artwork that is both subjective and also objective.
We live in a society, it seems to me, where people have become increasingly obsessed with the idea of the self-portrait, or the selfie as it's now called. How do you think your portrayals of people relate to selfies?
The idea of selfies is a very interesting one, and this is becoming more and more prevalent in our society today. And what I'm interested in doing is capturing this essential dimension of someone's existence in a way that involves not just taking a photo, but going to the X-ray facility and actually going through the procedure of having the X-ray taken of their skull. So it records a whole further dimension of their identity, as opposed to just a normal photo.
When you're talking of dimensions of identities, what we're also talking about in modern society is celebrity culture, because a celebrity identity is often very different from the private identity.
Portraits of celebrities really, in many ways, demystify this idea of who the individual is. At the same time, they are presented in a way which is also designed to propagate the idea of their existence for future generations. So it's quite paradoxical in that sense.
Would I be right in saying, however, that the fact that you are familiar with the traps of celebrity culture in a way that perhaps most working artists aren't, aids the process?
I think that if you look at the subjects that I have done, they are not all necessarily really famous or well-known people. I do also do portraits of people that I just find inspiring or really engage me in some way. I think that there is a certain value of it's who you know, not necessarily what you know, but I think that this type of work, in a way, is set up to be opposed to that concept, in the sense that I'm actually showing who the people really are inside, as opposed to propagating some fantastical idea of who the individual is.
Would I be right in thinking that in your practice, making this kind of portrait, there's an element of mischief?
There is some mischief, in the sense that when you present a billionaire as a skull portrait, you really do get the subject to engage with their commonality, with humanity, as opposed to their separation and their difference from the rest of humanity.
the fact that you use both highly traditional forms, painting and sculpture, and at the same time you have been very experimental in using new media. The use of the X-ray being a good example of this in the skull portraits. Could you like to talk about how those two things come together in your work? How you see yourself as an individual artist existing at a particular moment?
Well, I think it's important to use traditional references to the history of art and everything that has come previously, and combine it with one's experience of being alive today. So naturally, it's appropriate to use that understanding of art in the presentation of the pieces, but obviously, work with with the technology that exists today to be able to combine that knowledge and understanding.
What materials are you using? What techniques fascinate you? That kind of thing.
Well, my up and coming projects are really focusing around my sculptures, and there's a new series of works in bronze and silver, and also in sacred meteorite metal. And the bronzes are really focusing on what's called the life burgers, and it uses the form of hamburgers that are stuffed with objects, very very high value objects, private jets, collectors' cars, motorcycles, Rolex watches, Barbie dolls. These works are in a way an exploration of the consumerism and the commodification of art today, and the whole overwhelming materialism that seems to pervade our society today. So in fact, those pieces will use the same systems that propagate the value of art in a way to critique that system that is in fact propagating those artworks.
So that's one last question which I can't resist. Meteorites. First of all, how do you source them? Secondly, this is the wicked question. Would you like to put a sculpture on the moon, for example, or a sculpture on Mars?
Well, the meteorite metal is a hugely inspiring material. It's sacred because it comes from outer space. It's in some cases over 8 billion years old, and my goal as an artist is with my sculptures to use this special material to create a sense of reverence and significance in these objects that are being cast. So it's a great metal to work with. It's very close to steel. So yes, there's a sense of with these pieces to honor and give accord respect to the objects that are being presented.
Fine, it's good. Thanks.